What is happening, everybody? Time for a little Mopar Chat late night edition. Hope everybody's having a swell kickoff to your holiday season. I know I am. Sporting the new SRT hoodie that my wife got me. Do holiday Christmas gifts a little bit early around the Mason household because both of us are terrible at keeping a secret. So, speaking of being terrible at keeping a secret, at least so far as what we could tell, get this thing sorted out here while everybody's coming on. Hey, what's up, D-Mob? How you doing, my friend? Michael Smith, hey, Mason, Corvette C6, LS3. We got one coming up here, Hand Sport Turbo or Supercharger. Depends on what you want to do with the car. Sherrod, what's up, brother? Hey, so I want to kick this off. Wish everybody a happy holiday season. Happy or merry, what doesn't offend you. And so at any rate, my fellow insomniacs, so here's the thing. I see all these talks and rumors about what Mopar is going to be coming out with. And, we seem to be losing track of, how far this whole horsepower war thing has taken us leading up into 2019, which is right around the corner, and 2020, which seems to be this banner year for a lot of folks. So, let's look at how far we've come just in the last, 3, 4, 5 years with the release of the Hellcat, basically setting the world on their head, 700 plus horsepower. And with the subsequent offerings of the Demon and with the Red Eye, basically upping that bar, it got me to thinking a little bit. I remember a time very well when you could not hope to have a car that would run anywhere near mid-tens that would not rattle your teeth loose or, load up at a stoplight or something like that. So, for me, it's kind of a big deal to see just how far we've come from cars that are silky smooth bone stock cars that can go well into the tens now with the Demon into the nines, and with the Red Eye presumably not that far behind, or should I say just a little bit better than ahead of the Hellcat. It got me to thinking, where is Chevrolet in all of this? And the reason why I'm asking this is the other night I went to the drag strip with some friends, and this was the night where Revlon was reeling out, 1070 passes basically all night, running in the 8th and the high 6s, 691 I think was the best pass, but basically 695s all night. Great DA, about a 200-foot DA that night. And it got me to wondering, I never see Camaros at the drag strip the way that you see Mustangs or other Mopar offerings, whether it's a Charger, Challenger, SRT car, 5.7, Hellcat variant, whatever the case might be. I just didn't see any of those guys at the drag strip, and the few that we did were ZL1s. And the ZL1s, although they were impressive as far as how they ran, these are all 10-speed automatic cars running on a tire, actually running on basically the same wheel and tire setup that I've got, 17s or 18s, basically with a Mickey Thompson ET Street R on the back. Those cars were running in I think the best pass I saw was an 1120, and for the most part, the two that were running, it looks like there are a couple of buddies, stock cars, same as mine and my buddy Chris's car, at stone stock, except mine on a tire and his in basically street trim. They weren't getting into the 10s, and we were kind of having a chat about that. Why is that? I mean, that car is supposed to be I don't know, is it supposed to be a Hellcat killer? Not too sure. Maybe if you're getting the thing around a road course, but I don't really know too many people that are taking their ZL1s to a road course regularly. So again, I just don't know, but just curious I guess the point that I'm getting to here is if you guys have a Camaro, whether it's an SS, 1LE, ZL1, are you taking it to the drag strip and are you having any success with it? And I want to talk about that mainly because of all the rumors that I keep hearing about the Camaro being canceled in 2021 or 2022. The Camaro is going to get some kind of either big redesign or they're going to chop the legs out from underneath the Camaro at that point, which I don't really know that I believe that. I certainly hope that is not the case. But to be honest with you guys, that would really put a dent in the whole landscape of where we are with the horsepower wars in general. I mean, right now we've got a three-way battle for supremacy, whether you are a fan of the 392 going up against stock Mustangs and SS Camaros, which by the way is a very tight race right now, or if you're more into the ZL1 versus Hellcat variant, that's also a real tight race on the drag strip. Although it looks like the Hellcat still has the upper hand, it doesn't mean that the Camaro can't get there. But we're talking about these cars in stock trim, stock with a drag race setup, drag tire type deal. With the GT500 soon to come, it would be a real drag to lose, the third leg of this bar stool, so to speak, to, I don't know, a bean counter situation. And what I'm getting at is this: if you look at sales year over year for the Mustang versus the Camaro and for the Challenger, and this is for all variants, it basically goes like this. The Mustang typically will have a slightly higher total sale value. Again, this is across the board. I think if you look at the sales values year over year, they're like 67,000 units. That's for Challenger and for Camaro, so the sales figures are strong on both ends. Mustang will be a little bit higher than that, but you would expect that because it's more or less the price leader and the darling of the aftermarket community. So, but even with that, Mustang sales are actually tanking. Camaro sales, if you're following any trends, don't look like they're looking any better, and Mopar sales are actually showing an uptick. So I don't know. Is there just not enough of the cars selling? Or the guys that are buying them and gals that are selling them just not taking them to the drag strip? Because I remember a point in time where it was a pretty even mix. You'd have F bodies, you'd have Fox bodies, SN95s, and of course, not too many Mopars that have been old school at that time, but just fast forward a little bit, you would still see the F bodies, which you do, Fox bodies, which you don't see too much of that regularly anymore, basically because the value of those cars has gone through the roof. But the new Camaros just don't seem to be following suit the way that you would expect. So just curious on that. If you guys have any feedback, I'd love to chat about that. But let's get into some comments. Sherrod just saying, hey, what's up to you? Glad you're up and at it. Thank you, sir. Glad you're checking in. Daycab, Geared Chammer, Magnum Life. What up, B Mason? Love me some Magnums. Love the old school V8s. D-Mod, can't get enough of these live chats. I love doing them. Definitely. D-Mod, happy holidays. Right back at you, my friend. Phoenix98, what's up, brother? Sweet hoodie. Thank you very much. Yes, Mrs. Mason dropped this on me for the Christmas holiday, so I definitely dig that. She also got me a sweet vintage vending machine. If you guys, one of the fun things I like to do is refurbish small vending machines. In fact, I've got one sitting over here that I have to unclutter some stuff to get to. But anyway, yeah, she got me a sweet one. I'm loving that. I might bring that one into camera view here in just a little bit. Daycab Gear Chamber saying in a straight line, Mopar eats lunch. Hey, I tell you what, that's kind of part of what I'm getting at. I mean, why is it that these cars that are known to be strong performers, both on the street and in closed circuit, whatever the case is, you just don't see them out there at the drag strip, which is kind of bumming me out. Phoenix 98 saying that's why I got a 392 and his old F body. I love F bodies. Gerard actually bringing up a good point. The Camaro lives in the shadow of the Corvette. I'll tell you something. If you look at it from a straight up brand point of view, the Camaro is actually sitting in an interesting spot because it wasn't that long ago where the Camaro just did not get the engine horsepower or whether it was a cam spec or just in tuning that the Corvette did. And now the Camaro has the power, excuse me, that the Vet has, but it just doesn't, for whatever reason, have that same appeal. I almost wonder, I was looking at the sales figures and it doesn't break it down as far as SS or 6-cylinder or anything like that. It just says Camaros. And I wonder if within that segment, or rather within that sales figure, if the SS is just not getting enough play, and that might be a driving force to not carry it farther. Jay Pum is saying arm flex, thumbs up, thumbs up. I like it. Hey, Vince, man, I appreciate that very much. Merry Christmas back to you. I really do appreciate that. Thank you so much. Means more to me than you know. Thank you, truly. Um, but one of the things that I want to just try to figure out is if the Camaro is going to be on its way out, it leaves an interesting place here, and it almost makes sense to me in a way. Just hear me out on this. So if you look at the Mustang, it offers up a distinctly different driving experience than a Challenger. And I'm just going to compare the two-door variants here because they're direct line of sight competitors, I guess, if you want to call them that. But the Mustang is going to offer up a completely different driving experience than the Challenger. And if there is no Camaro to compare the Mustang to, then you really almost could have the best of both worlds. If money is no object, you could have a performance pack Mustang in your garage with a manual transmission, and you could have a 392 car sitting in your garage, and it would offer up literally completely different driving experiences in that you could have a sporty car with the Mustang, and you could have a true to form muscle car with that 392 powered car. Now, you can take that to a different level, and you can start talking about a Hellcat versus a GT500 or a Hellcat versus a GT350, which is a very common, I guess mainly because of price point comparison. And in that case, it really makes sense because you've got a GT350 that is a car that I dearly love from just a pure driving experience standpoint. And then you would have a Hellcat basically costing roughly the same amount of money, but offers up this drag racing boulevard bruiser, light the tires up at will type of driving experience. But where does that leave the Camaro in all of this? The ZL1, for what I can see, at least from what I've seen at the drag strip, doesn't have the actual punch that the Hellcat has. And although it does handle well, and we're talking about the Camaro SS here, handles well, takes to modifications very well, it doesn't offer that big car feel that the Challenger is going to give you. The big muscle car feel, America, right? But then you've got the Mustang that's out there that takes to modifications just as easily and has an aftermarket, by the way, that is significant to say the least. It's a Me Too car as opposed to being a trailblazing car. It's just also there. I don't think there's enough to distinguish the Camaro from the Mustang, at least in terms of the general public. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, if you're watching this channel, you're into cars. You love them all. You might be brand loyal to Mopar like myself, or Ford, or GM, or what have you, but you're into this and you kind of get what I'm talking about here, and you can make a case for your particular brand that you like the most. But for the general public, I think this is what's happening. I think that they see the Mustang being the sophisticated, hot librarian version, if you want to look at it that way. Got a lot of smarts going on. In some ways, a little bit subdued, not a lot down low, but kind of builds everything up top. Real heady type of car. The Mopars are always going to be just a little bit thicker in nature, a little bit more fun to snuggle up to. But the Camaro just doesn't have that. It just doesn't have, a certain appeal. It's not as muscle car as the Challenger, but it's got a little bit of that element, and it's got maybe as much sporty as the Mustang, but it doesn't offer up that top-end rush the way that the Mustang does. So it's too much of a compromise. You would almost wish, in a way, that Chevrolet would have taken maybe a different tact. I get that there's a lot of Camaro purists out there, but maybe, I don't know, bring back something like the Chevelle or an Impala, something that really does set the brand away from the Camaro. I'm sorry, from the Challenger and the Mustang. And what I mean by Impala or SS Impala, I don't mean one of these Holden derived cars. I mean something like a big chassis car with a big power plant. I mean, that would be kind of infringing on Mopar's territory a little bit, but I mean, unless they make something like make the Camaro like a Lotus Elise or Siege or whatever they're calling them these days, that would be the only way to really find another niche for that market. Of course, that would be blasphemy in the eyes of not only every Chevrolet or Chevy guy out there, but for anybody that's into muscle cars. So let's see. Let me get some comments. I was just kind of doing my intro there. Jason Willis asks, is it true that the 426 may replace the 392? If that's the case, I may have to get an SRT 392 non-Hellcat because I think it may be a collector's item in 15 to 20 years. I wouldn't call the SRT a collector's item just yet. It's a fairly rare car, but they did make quite a few of them. In fact, the Charger is a more rare car than the Challenger in SRT form. And for you guys that don't know, an SRT is basically a Hellcat with a 6.4 as opposed to being the 6.2 supercharged. But it's got the Hellcat brakes, the adjustable suspension, SRT pages, all of that. And it's actually a very well-balanced car. And I truly did love my my SRT 392. But the jury is really still out on that 426, whether or not it's going to make an introduction. I know that there is, or was at least back in April when Mopar released the Happy Hemi Day. Well, that was just April 26, 426. It's just kind of a play on a date. And, the 426 is the most recognizable Hemi, and there's no March 92nd, right? So, but, the 426 is what put the Hemi, so to speak, on the map for Dodge, and at least in the public's eye. So, that cubic inch displacement, yeah, it garners a lot of warm and fuzzy, but I'm not so sure that they're going to bring it back as a mass-produced engine. I would like to see them do something with that aluminum block 426 in the naturally aspirated form, not just in supercharged form. I think that would be a great optional engine. I think it would be phenomenal in terms of being able to market a true 426 Hemi in the marketplace, and in this case, have it be a naturally aspirated 426 Hemi like it was back in the day. And that would play really well based on the marketing that Dodge really seems to try to harken back to. And realistically, the 426 cubic inch displacement was never offered from Dodge with any type of forced induction whatsoever. So, they need to bring that back. And I truly believe that it would do well in the marketplace, but in limited numbers. And the reason why I say limited numbers is because I don't know that they have enough time or money to put together a 426 that will manage use, misuse, and abuse criteria, and also be able to, and what I mean by that is through warrantability, and also be able to get that thing through EPA and CARB certification. So I don't know. We'll see. Right now, it only exists as a crate motor and in drag pack cars specifically. Let's see. Gerard is saying, there were rumors of a cheaper Camaro variant to compete with the cheaper Mustang. I would guess that there would be, but right now the platform is existing with the V6 and the V8 going toe to toe with the Mustang, and I just don't think that Camaro is capturing the kind of market share that they thought they would with the Gen 6, and a lot of that backing, that market backing for the Camaro was being driven about it's a lighter car, it's got more power and all of that. But honestly, I think where Chevy really screwed up with the NA Camaro lineup was they didn't offer an aggressive enough rear gear set. I get that you can mod that car and get some real impressive numbers out of it, but that's true of any car. Realistically, I mean, once you start modding a car, then it's just a question of money at that point. Guys, listen, a lot of folks say, well, the 392 can only manage this, that, or whatever because of this, that, or whatever limitation. And I just keep saying, look, you keep throwing money at something, you can make it go as fast as you want it to go. So it's just a matter of time and time and money and all of that. So I'm looking at these cars from a stock standpoint, just stock with a drag setup, whether it's a tire or a true full drag pack. But anyway, getting back to it. Symphonic says, so this Driveway Demons guy is saying you cannot order a 392 anymore. Guy seems to spit a lot of bullshit. He also claims the C8 will offer a V4 and a V6 variant. What? Like a V? Sorry, I haven't been keeping up with this guy. I know who you're talking about, but the saying that you cannot order a 392 anymore is pretty easy to debunk. Just call your local Mopar dealership and say, hey, I want a car with a 392. What do you got that I can order? So yeah, I'm pretty sure you can still order that. I don't know anything about a V4 or a V6 variant. That doesn't even make sense. Is it April Fool's Day or some shit? Because I might be picking up on that. But anyway, let's see. Marcel Industries. What up, Mason? Just made a drink. Cheers, brother. Soaking down some Diet Coke, but you know what? I like it. Yeah, you know what? It's worth me just checking that out to hear him say that. I cannot believe that you can't take yourself seriously even saying that stuff anymore. That's pretty crazy. Let's see. Jay Pum is saying, still early setting up, but I was working real close to the GT500 booth at the Detroit Auto Show. The side of the container read GT500 01 14 19. So that is going to be the New York Auto Show, is I believe when that car is going to be shown to the public. There have been some leaked photos of what I believe was like a dealer, like a dealer roundup type of a deal where they get the select dealers involved and you can see the car on stage before it's released to the public. Some of those shots were leaked, so I am to understand them. If I am to understand them to be correct, it's the blue one with the white stripes. Car is gorgeous. I mean, it's definitely nice. My only concern with the GT500 is how is that car going to be positioned? Is it positioned to be the next generation of GT500? In other words, a standalone, meaning that it doesn't compete with anything. And if I'm Ford, this is how I'm going to bring the GT500 to market. This is the new GT500. We're not trying to go up against the Hellcat or the Red Eye or the Demon. This is an evolution of the GT500 for those that have fell in love with and embraced GT500s in the past. Here's a new GT500 for you. Here are its features and benefits, and let the chips fall where they may going up against the competition. Because here's the thing, it's going to pretty much mop the floor with the ZL1. I can tell you that right now. It's got the look, it's got the engineering might of Ford Motor Company behind it. They're really not looking at the Red Eye or the Hellcat or the Demon with that car, I don't think, because there's no reason for them to. And like I say, the only trepidation that I have with the GT500 is price point. Where is that car going to fall in line when you compare it to cars like the Red Eye? Because the Red Eye is going to check in, again, the one that I priced was just south of $80,000. You can get a well put together Hellcat for about $70,000, $68,000. And that price point is kind of a sweet spot, that $65,000 to $75,000 mark for the supercharged offerings from either Ford or Mopar to hit that performance level. That's really where they need to be. Now, if they price this thing at anything north of that, it's going to turn a lot of people off, and you're going to lose a little bit of credibility when you start to compare that GT500 against the ZL1. So for me, if it's not a direct line of sight comparison to the ZL1 in terms of price, then again, that's why I just look at it as a standalone only car, and whatever it runs at Road America or at pick a drag strip, that's what it's going to run. And, mainly that car will be marketed to more Ford purists than people that are looking to get out of Mopar or get out of some form of Chevy, whether it's a Vet or a Camaro, and move into that direction. That's my thoughts on it. Anyway, the Sloan comes in and says Chevrolet needs to focus a little more on drag racing with the Camaro and leave the hardcore road race type to the Corvette. Thank you for saying that. Very true. No reason to have two cars focused on road racing. I certainly hope that you can get that word over to the boys over in the Camaro engineering team, to Chevrolet. I've been wondering that and kind of saying that for a while. The Camaro needs to not be something that you keep seeing on a road course. That's not its, I don't know. I should say from a brand standpoint, let me couch what I'm about to say by saying that, but just from a branding and from an image standpoint, the Vet is your road race car. I mean, what did Chevrolet put up against Vipers back in the day for SCCA GT2 and 3? They put the Corvette, and it dominated. It did great. Well, once, Dodge quit championing Vipers, but the reality here is that is their road race car. Street cred is found in the Camaro. That's your everyman's hot rod. Road racing is not an everyman's pastime. It's not an everyman's hobby. It's an expensive endeavor where you can get a set of tires, throw them on your Camaro, take it to the drag strip, and have a ball. You can't do that road racing. It's a pretty expensive thing to do. Start looking at the price of tires. Look at a set of Tri-8s. What is it, the Toyo 888? Those are expensive ass tires, and you need that type of tire if you're going to be even somewhat competitive. Now, sure, you can take the car out on the stock tires, but you're going to chew them up in just one day on a closed circuit. So you're exactly right. Market the car as a grassroots hot rod, not as some sophisticated thing. The Camaro was never meant to be sophisticated in that respect. So I agree with you 100%. I really would like to see him do that, or just do away with it completely. Make something that is wholly different than the Mustang. Quit trying to be more than a Mustang. Little BG's Easter egg there for you. But anyway, quit trying to compete with Mustang and do your own thing, Camaro. You can't be the also ran or the me too anymore. And that brings me to another point. Now, you wonder why Mopar is doing so well in the marketplace right now. It's because Mopar is the kid that's doing his own thing. Mustang is the kid that's doing her own thing. What do you got with Camaro? You almost get like this cross-dresser appeal with it. It's like this really butch chick. You got Mopar, which has always been more brutish. Mustang, which has always been a bit more feminine just in its approach, not the big engine, but high revving, high thinking. Mopar's done it with just brute force and, bigger hammer makes bigger noise. But Camaro, at least with the Gen 6, I always got the impression that it was somebody trying to be somebody that they're not. And I hated that. What would have been really sweet for the Camaro to do, or for Camaro to do, would be to have something that was, like a V6 twin turbo setup. It's something that's just out there, something different, really piss off the establishment, but they didn't really go with that retro look, so to speak. So it would have been really cool if they'd have just done anything to keep it interesting. That to me is where I'm at. But anyway, that's just kind of how it all kind of plays out to me. Anyway, getting back to it, getting off on a tangent. Phoenix 98, yep, Sloan, they're trying to make Camaro sports car. They can't do it. Except for R&D professor. He's late for class. Good to see you. Better late than never, brother. Patrick Stevens saying beautiful stuff. Thank you very much. Phoenix 98 saying it would be cool if Camaro made a 1320 style car. Listen, I agree with that 100%. Give that car at least a rear end that will allow it to take advantage of some of the extra power that it has. Give grassroots racers something to play with. You know, whether you're into eighth mile racing or drag racing or just playing around with it on the street, feeling that wave of torque as you're just driving the car around, that rear gear is going to help you a ton. And there's really no penalty in terms of fuel economy. You know, I've already proven that with my truck, for crying out loud. I had one with a 392, one with a 323, and they got basically the same fuel economy, both city and in highway. Mixed driving, they both knocked down 18.5 miles per gallon. And that's in a truck. And that's going from 323 to 392 gears. I just don't get it. They've got to make the car more appealing to car guys. And here's the thing, and I think this is almost really more to the point. The Mustang appeals to everybody, whether you're into cars and you're into modifications and you really want to make something that's fast. The Mustang is the darling of the aftermarket community for just a ton of reasons, but they also appeal to, you know, your secretary types and your passive types. That appeals to them. The Mopar appeals to them in the same way, in that you see a Mopar and you think muscle car, American muscle car, but the Camaro's lost that. And the Camaro used to have that. That's the weird thing, is that the Camaro was it was the Mopar-esque alternative to the Ford Mustang back in the Fox body and F body days, where the Ford had the smaller engine, lighter weight. Camaro had the bigger, burlier engine, but a little bit bigger car. You could see the difference, but really the Camaro doesn't have that. And with the lackluster gear ratios that they're given in those cars, they lack that actual hammer punch that you need to be better than the Mustang, that you need to now be able to compete with the likes of the 392. That's what you need, and they just don't have it. And it just, I don't know, it bums me out a little bit. Got the blues for that. I'm hoping that what we're hearing is not true, and that there is some kind of resurgence in enthusiasm for Chevrolet, for the Camaro in general. And by the way, I have seen the 2019 in person, and it is just as hideous in person as it was in the pictures. That's another thing. Can they make something that's at least visually attractive? I mean, I know this is subjective, and I get that. And I know I'm wearing a SRT shirt, and I come from a Ford background, but good Lord, you don't have to make the car ugly. I mean, anyway, just watch the sales drop even farther. Let's see. Make sure I'm not skipping anybody. Zephyr R&D, what is your opinion on rebadging a wide body scat as a TA? Historically, the TA is more of a handling spec, and if anybody does that, please send me pics. That is the TA. Sorry, but when the wide body was released, go back a little bit farther than that. When the TA was released, I saw the TA as a complete flop in one respect. That should have been the wide body. The TA was the SECA competitor, for you guys that may not be in the know. Back in the 60s, SECA became a really big deal. You had Mustang, you had Mopar, Ford with the Mustang, and Mercury with the Cougar. You had Mopar with the Challenger and the Cuda, which were the Challenger TA and the AAR Cuda. You had the Javelin that was in there mixing it up, which is a trick-looking car. But the TA Challenger was the road racing variant. When they came out with the wide body, how that wasn't immediately identified as the TA still blows my mind. If I were to ever buy a wide body 392 car, I would immediately rebadge that thing TA. I would do everything I could to make that car handle as well as possible, throw every cooling modification under the sun that I could at it, and I would be we have a local circuit track here called Motorsports Ranch. I would have that thing at MSR as often as I possibly could. I do not understand how in the hell Mopar does some weird stuff with marketing sometimes, but I don't understand how that point was lost. That is your handling package. They've even billed it as such. Yeah, look at the wide wheels. Look at the fender flares. Look at this. Look at that. That's your handling package. And by the way, what makes it even funnier is if you ever get into a Demon, the startup screen on a Demon in the Uconnect, not in the dash. That's the Demon thing. If you look at it in the Uconnect, it's showing an apex. It's not showing a drag strip. It's showing a freaking right-hand apex. That would have been so appropriate for the TA. It would have been amazing to see something like that be offered that would truly harken back to heritage, which again, Mopar is so quick to market to a heritage that, to be honest with you, new Mopar fans don't know anything about. They've only heard about it in stories, but they've never experienced it in real life the way that their fathers have or their grandfathers have at this stage of the game. So how do I feel about it? Not only do I encourage it, I think you almost have to. In fact, if you get a wide body and you don't rebadge it as TA, I'd be a little bit bummed out. I don't know. There's my take on that. Gerard saying a modern day 426 with about 5.5 or 6 hundo horsepower would be cool as hell. It really would, and it just is going to take that R&D, that time that it's going to take for them to bring that engine to market. I'm not sure if they're actually going to go through with it. You got to keep in mind, guys, the 392 is doing really well and has done an amazing job of showing plenty of taillights to plenty of the other big two. So, but they need to step their game up. And realistically, guys, to be honest with you, the 392 cubic inch displacement, you can make the argument that it is the catalyst. It's what got, Mopar really into drag racing, was that Gen 1 Hemi from back in the 50s. But the 392 wasn't necessarily the best. It's just the one that evolved into, being the Don Garlett's top fuel, blown 392 and the dragsters. That's kind of where that 392 number, where the history lies with it. But the general public doesn't know anything about that. The general public knows about Hemi through the 426, and the legend of that engine is what they really, in my opinion, should be driving moving forward. But that's only if they keep hearkening back to their past with all this, the marketing that they put out. Simon Kennedy coming in. Beep, beep. I love it. Yes. Roadrunner. Patrick Stevens saying they should have stuck with the Impala Super Sport. I'll tell you something. What would have been really cool is something that not only would work well with the public, but you got to remember, back in the day, the Impala was the darling of every municipality. What's wrong with having a 2-door and a 4-door variant of that car for municipalities to use as well as a general public? Well, I get it. The market is all SUV based now, and muscle cars are, they're a niche market. They sell a fraction of what trucks sell and what SUVs sell, and I understand that. I mean, 60,000 units for a Mustang for a Camaro, or 70,000 rough units for Challengers, and 80,000 rough units for Mustangs pales in comparison to the SUV sales. So I get it, niche market, but God, it could have just, I feel like there's such a major opportunity lost with that Camaro. Lightning Blue Meanie saying, what up, B Mason? What up, Lightning Blue? Thoughts on the mid-80s Monte Carlo SS? Can it be made into a fun street machine? Are you kidding me? Hell yes, that car can be made into a fun street car. I'll put it to you like this. That car can be made into a lot of different variants of fun. Whether you're into drag racing, if you like handling, or whatever the case is, the old G-body shuffle, you got to do some mods to that thing to make it stable. But yeah, that can be made into a car that will keep you entertained for a very long time. And the cool thing about it, cheap to make fast, man. I mean, realistically, you find any garden variety 350 carbureted, dual plane intake, good set of AFR heads, long tube headers, nice little buck 50 shot on top of that with a set of 373 gears and a sticky tire. Put a smile on your face from ear to ear, my friend. Love those cars. Same with the old Fairmonts too, by the way. That's one that a lot of people forget, but that is still a Fox body. Big Daddy 392 checking in with what up, brother? Cheers. Cheers, my friend. Mr. Hayden, because you know I can't say your first name. Hello, Mopar Messiah. Hello. Hello to you. Symphonic saying, yeah, I don't even know why I watched this Driveway Demons guy's video. He seems to just say shit for views. Tell you what, man, clicks do make you money, though, brother. So yeah, definitely take whatever you hear about that kind of stuff with a grain of salt, man. I typically don't get too into rumors, but you know, you can't help it. I mean, you know, we're all enthusiasts here. We want to hear about the fun. We want to hear about that excitement. So, you know, if there's a V4 going into a Corvette, I definitely want to see that. Patrick Stevens, Mopar is best. Believe. Phoenix 98, 2 thumbs up. Slime Cuda, thank you very much. I appreciate that very much. Keep the content coming. I plan to. I enjoy it. Thank you very much for the contribution to the cause. Project Revlon is well underway. Let me get you guys up to speed with that as well. So, been working on finding a drive shaft that is actually going to work with that car. The first run hasn't really gone so well. We're still working with that manufacturer to see if we can't make that right. The problem is that I'm getting a vibration at about 120 miles an hour that progressively gets worse from there. So you would think, well, not necessarily a big deal, especially considering the thing is silky smooth up through about 110 miles an hour, but we're going through the traps at about 100 and just the north side of 130 is what we're aiming for with really good air and a little bit of weight reduction. So can't have anything that's going to be giving that type of a symptom, so to speak. So might have just been something wrong with the original drive shaft. I've got another one coming. We're going to swap that one out, see how well it works. If it works, great, fantastic. Can't wait to give that manufacturer props. If it doesn't, we'll send it back and just call it good and go in a different direction. But I'm going to need a drive shaft if I'm going to be launching that car the way that I want to, and it's got to be stable. And what I mean by stable is no NVH above about 170 because I'm looking to do some half-mile events with the car as well. So, you know, I've got some things in the works right now with her, but right now she is running like a top. As long as I keep her under $120, wouldn't even notice a difference. In fact, that's the weird thing. It is silky smooth right up to about 120, but with a stock shaft, no NVH, straight to a very high speed. So, and of course, all this is being done at a drag strip. So all testing is done in a safe and, you know, supervised environment. But what I want to say is that it's a bit of a headache, bit of a hassle. And I've actually gone through and taken some measurements on the car, made sure that there wasn't any weird like cradle shift or anything like that. And the car left to right is within a millimeter of itself. So it is perfect. You know, and just getting the car out, having a lot of fun with it, and certainly looking forward to bringing you guys the success and the results of how that drive shaft thing is working itself out. And also can't wait. We've got just a little bit of time before the track rental is going to be upon us. So obviously there'll be a bunch of sporadic live feeds coming from that as well. Looking to have a great turnout. Over 30 cars coming to my track rental. So should be a lot of fun. Let's see. 426. 426. Smart one, Kuda. Would be nice. I'd love to see it. If they can somehow or another make that engine work. Let's see. Symphonic saying maybe now that Al Oppenheiser isn't running Camaro anymore, they might go in a different direction. Man, I hope so. They've got to look at it from this point of view. Excuse me. That car is a grassroots car. Period. It's a grassroots hot rod for a working man or woman if they want to buy GM and go drag racing or have something fun to drive, that's the route that they need to go. And make the car user friendly, be able to see out of the thing, for crying out loud. I mean, it's the visibility out of the car isn't that great. The styling, it's its own style, don't get me wrong, and that's a good thing. And it's good to see something that's not necessarily a straight throwback car. And I'm glad to see that they're going that route, possibly to bring in some of the youth market. But I think what they failed to realize is that the youth market is seeing the Mustang and seeing the Challenger, and it's just a cool looking car. So whether it's retro or not, you can't really argue with the fact that that look is selling units. So anyway, I'd love to see him go in a different direction, but I just hope it's not going to be too cartoonish. Patrick Stevens dropping an amen, brother. 2 a.m., baby. The thumbnail got me weak. I don't know what that means, and I'm just going to keep going. Let's see. Mr. Hayden saying, I was hoping he was going to give us the eyebrow. Yeah, I know. I started to, and that was actually at the third or fourth thumbnail, because every one that I took, it ended up being blurry. So I was just, it's the one that stuck, basically. Don Power saying, you pull and pay is a 50% to the end of the month. Oh, no kidding. I need to get out there and get some intake manifolds for the spring. I mean, that really should be what I'm doing anyway. Let's see. Vincel, I can't pronounce the rest of it. Can't read it. Vince is saying, oh man, here we go. Mopar doesn't care. Stick a Hemi in it. Love it. Hey, listen, I'll tell you something. Not only are they saying put a Hemi in it, they're putting a Hellcat in it. I mean, you look at the Challenger and Charger. That's been a staple, but now you've got the Trackhawk and soon to be the TRX. That will be a Hemi powered or a Hellcat powered vehicle as well. A funny thing though, a lot of people tend to forget or overlook, or it just doesn't dawn on them. So the Hellcat comes in, let me think about this. The Charger, the Trackhawk, and we're just talking about the actual Hellcat engine, not the Demon engine. Charger, Hellcat, and soon to be the TRX, which will be a crew cab truck or quad cab truck, however you want to slice it. But the Challenger is the only platform that engine comes in that's a two-door. I've always found that to be pretty funny until you realize that that's the only two-door car that they have is the Challenger. So, Demon, being pulled out of that conversation mainly because it's the Demon, but, that car has its own engine and it's not available in anything else. But everything you can Hellcat is a four-door except for the Challenger. It's the only two-door. I always found that to be kind of cool. Yo, Mason, what's up with your video thumbnails? I know, man, they suck. So the way that works is when I go live, the way that the YouTube thing works on my end is I'm doing it from the app on my phone because my production budget is zero. So when it goes live, it says get ready, we're going to take a thumbnail, and it's a countdown, and then it takes a picture. So, I mean, unless I hold up something that's not, excuse me, not my head, it's going to be a, it's going to be a picture of me. So a lot of the times I'm trying to get my head centered right, get the mount everywhere. And like I say, the first couple of times I was moving, and anyway, this last one kind of sucks. I know. Patrick Stevens says, you speak the truth every time. Lightning Blue Meanie. LOL, B. Mason called the Camaro some butch chick. It's the way it looks like to me. I mean, think about it for a minute. I mean, it's small, right? But it's still kind of burly. It's got the burly engine in it anyway. I don't know. It just doesn't, I don't know. That's just it. If you think about it from that point of view, you always, I made that video about, what I would describe American pony cars as if they were girls at the bar. And if you didn't see the video, it was kind of one of these deals where I'd had a couple of drinks and I was out in the garage with the 392 and I was kind of hanging out. It's like, well, how would you describe them? Well, The Mustang was to me like that librarian type or like that teacher type, kind of heady, little prim and proper, always wore the nice little suit, but always a little bit tight. Wore the glasses, but you couldn't really tell if she was doing it for effect or because her eyeballs really needed to be, like they needed glasses. Always had the hair just right, very sophisticated looking type of a person or type of a female that you would see at the bar. Had, like just the right jewelry on, that whole deal. The Mopars always seemed like that kind of thick chick that, could really pound down beer and look like they could probably throw a pretty decent right hook if you said the wrong thing. It would probably put you on your ass in the process. The type of chick that's a little bit loud, the type of chick that will make the dirty joke, that's the Mopar chick. And then the Camaro to me always seemed like that kind of dirty, stripperish type looking chick that was maybe a little bit, I don't know, was the girl that would wear things that are a bit age inappropriate, wear something that like her daughter would wear, carried herself that way. That was always the Camaro to me. It was always trying to be something a little bit more than what it really was. It never did stand on its own merit. It tried to bring something else to the table to be attractive. So, it would try to tell the joke that the Mopar chick would say, but couldn't really get it timed right because the look didn't fit the joke, if you know what I mean. And didn't really have the sophistication, but would try to tart herself up to catch an eye of the guy that was looking at the Mustang type chick to begin with. So that was kind of how it always played itself out in my head. So I made a video that kind of went along those lines. So if you haven't seen it, it's buried somewhere in my playlist. So check that out. It's actually kind of fun to watch if you're bored to tears. So Ann Baby saying Mopar, no car. Absolutely. We're living it here. So for R&D, I really like the 2+2 of a Camaro as a road course car, though the Corvette needs to be at an elevated level. I agree. Hopefully, with the mid-engine, they can put it up in the European community. Talking about the mid-engine Corvette, which I definitely agree with. The 2+2 as a road race car is a fantastic platform, but to me, the only thing that I see wrong with the Camaro on a road course is it just it almost has to be better. Either better at being a road course car, maybe a little bit less sophisticated. Maybe they should have more, if they're going to go that route, have more aftermarket support for it. Have more factory support for the car in that endeavor. And I'm not sure that maybe they do. I'm not sure. I'm not really living in that world so much. The whole, the ecosphere of Camaro is just not a place where I'm, setting up shop. But, that's the kind of things that I would like to see. And I get that with the 1LE as a handling package. But maybe to go along with that, have something that is more drag racer oriented, or something that is going to get the grassroots racer get those dollars out of his or her pocket, as opposed to the Mustang. And again, it's tough to make the case for the Camaro when the Vet is out there, because Mustang really doesn't have that. It doesn't have that bigger brother to compete with, unless you're talking about the GT, but it's so stratospherically priced that, it's really not the conversation. And, I guess you could say Challenger had that with the Viper, but the Viper was, again, a higher priced version, or a higher priced alternative to the Corvette, which was already doing a really good job at it. So I don't know. The price points, I guess, are a little bit too close. I think that's really more to the I guess the spirit of that topic is that, the Corvette is significantly better than the Camaro at a not as significant price increase. So, it's better than the amount of money you would have to spend on it. Joaquin Hayden saying, I hate GM products. I think Camaros are ugly too. Man, look, brother, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but there are some things that are just guaranteed facts. And if you've seen the 2019, I've actually seen one in person on the road already. not an attractive place to be. Maybe it's because they just wanted the view in Mopar rear view mirrors to not be as attractive as it used to be. See, Jay Poma said, hit the like, thumbs up, and more will see the chat. Oh, yeah. Yeah, guys, hit that thumbs up, man. I don't know if it helps, and I like to see the thumbs up too. So yeah, hit the like and subscribe. That makes it better for other folks, I think. That shows you how much I know about YouTube. Making all these videos and I don't know the ins and outs, man. I'm telling you, I got to step my game up. Joe T saying, what up, B Mason? That's why the 5th gen Camaro is my choice over the 6th gen. I tell you what, not only your choice, but the choice of a lot of folks. In fact, if you go back and look at the sales figures of the Gen 5 Camaro, they are incredibly strong leading into the Gen 6. Oddly enough, the Gen 6 figures have been steadily dropping. Year over year, I think they're looking at, if you go Gen 5 to Gen 6, I think they're looking at like a 25% drop in sales, even though they went up in power. Gen 5 is a great platform, by the way, whether you want to build a drag race car, a road race car, do like an American Iron setup for autocross or for closed circuit racing. Fantastic platform for that. And a lot of guys do gravitate towards it because it's still a rail injected, fuel injected setup. It's simpler. It's just a great way to go all the way around if that's the direction you're wanting to go. So 2 a.m. baby saying, well, first Joaquin saying Camaros are super ugly. Yeah. 2 a.m. baby saying they need to fire the designers for Mustang and Camaro. I don't know, man. Mustang's doing pretty good. And, the Mustang's actually not necessarily a bad looking car, but it's, it's no Mopar, but, it's getting there. When you look at it from the standpoint of just pure sales, that Mustang does so well when you compare it to the Camaro. It's just one of those things where you're just not going to see the comparison, but it does appeal. The look of that thing does appeal to the general public. So let's see, Phoenix 98, Ugg Camaro. Yeah, man, you're telling me. That thing is pug ugly. Big Daddy 392 saying, hey, Mason, my brother just got Pro Charged his 6th gen Camaro SSA8 making 597 rear wheel horsepower. What are my chances versus the 16 Scat Pack with full bolt-ons and a tune, roll or from a dig? Well, you're going to get scalded from a roll if he's making that kind of power. But that being said, from a dig, I don't know. It's going to depend on his setup, his tire setup primarily. But you will probably get out on him for about the first 330 feet. And then with that kind of power, he's going to start reeling you in and go around you on the big end. Let's see. From my understanding, that kind of power at that weight will get him, you should get him into the high tens, I would think. But yeah, I mean, that's just a lot of power to try to compete with. He's lighter than you. And quite honestly, he is making about 175, 180 more horsepower than you are on the big end. But that being said, it doesn't necessarily make it a better combination. If you're having fun with your car, stick with what rocks, man. So for R&D, let me stir up the pot again. The non-Hellcat Challenger is not a muscle car. It's an amazing grand touring car, kind of an American AMG. Good point. When it comes to NA muscle, though, that 392 is pretty awesome. And, it's a good direct line of sight comparison, though, from the 392 car. We're talking about the Challenger here to, like an S-Class Mercedes or an E-Class Mercedes, which was the platform it was built from. I had a W211 E63 and loved it. Awesome as far as a four-door car. In fact, it's indistinguishable from the feel and the handling characteristics of a Charger. I can tell you this, they're awesome cars all the way around, and man, you put a tire on the thing and you're going to be in the 11s in good air. So, thing will cruise at 120 miles an hour all day long, and, even faster if you decided to push it. But uh, they're all muscle cars as far as I'm concerned, at least in function, if not in outright designation, because they do make a great grand touring car. I used to love going on road trips with that 392 car. It was so much fun. Let's see. SCCA owns the rights to Trans Am, not GM. That's true. They actually rented, or not rented. They paid a trademark fee when they made the Trans Am. GM paid a trademark fee of $5 per car to the SCCA, if I'm not mistaken. Patrick Stevens saying, don't forget the Matador. Matador is awesome. Freaking love Matadors. See, Gerard saying the base 2017 to 18 5.7 Challenger TA should have been a 4,000-pound car that was set up to handle with 400 to 420 horsepower in their 5.7s. You know, the funny thing is the 5.7 is not too far off of that 400 horsepower mark. I'd love to see a little bit of weight pulled out of it. Keep scooting around in this chair here. But yeah, that the 5.7 is no slouch. Do not sleep on the 5.7. Jason Applin saying, I can't afford a 392 Challenger, but the 6.1 2009 2010s are in my budget. Will I be disappointed with the power, or what does it take to run with a 392 car? Well, no, you're not going to be disappointed with a 6.1. They're actually really fun to drive. But what does it take to make it run with a 392? Just save up some more money and grab a 392 car. I mean, you can go cam, heads, exhaust, and everything else. And by the time you sunk that amount of money, you could have found yourself a 392 that would have fit the budget. But if you want to buy a car and then save up and then mod it, the 6.1 can actually put you in a pretty sweet place. Mainly because you've got an intake that works very well with boost. You don't have to worry about VVT. Camshafts and tuning with those cars are easier. And let's face it, they're awesome cars to drive naturally aspirated. Throw a little bit of boost at them. They're just as much fun. Or you go the route that I would probably personally take and go with a 426 stroker setup with that 6.1 architecture. Be in a really nice place indeed. Actually, 426 would be ideal for that setup, mainly because you have the simplicity of having a non-VVT Hemi, good set of ported heads, good valve seats, good springs, have that intake ported, and you'll be in a really fun place with that car. I think you'd have a riot with that car, but it boils down to it takes money more than anything else. Marcel is saying, so we all agree the Mustang is the more feminine approach. Well, yeah, obviously. Let's see. Can't see that the thing here. Mustang, something with, oh, says Mustang's got the fingernail polish. I love it. 2 a.m. baby saying, why are they taking this long to release the 426? It takes a lot of time to get one of those engines through EPA certification. It doesn't take that long to get it through use, misuse, and abuse verification, I guess, if you want to call it that, or validation. But it does take a good amount of time to get them EPA certified and to get them CARB certified and basically to ramp up production on that setup. I don't know why it took this long, though. I mean, they already had the 426 short block for the drag pack cars, so it's not like the tooling has been lost or anything like that. I mean, it's already there, but I guess, well, technically that was the older block configuration, I guess, and they're maybe looking to do something with the newer, the VVT setup. But I don't know. I'd love to see them actually start moving forward with it if they're going to do anything, because, you start believing rumors. What is it? 2022 is when the when the 392 is going to get killed. So I don't know. We'll see, but it'd be pretty cool if they kind of step lively, right? Let's see. Phoenix 98. Kevin Morgan got the rights for the name, but so expensive. Right on. Let's see. Cranman, B. Mason. So, what do you think Mopar's response will be to the A10, 18 plus Mustangs? I ran a few from a dig and a roll, and more often than not, jump ahead of them, but those things come hard around up top. Well, that's what they do best, man. I mean, look, I'll put it to you like this. I cannot remember ever losing to a performance pack Mustang with my Challenger, and that's a performance pack car, 73 gear, A10, whatever the case is. I never lost, or 355 gear, I'm sorry, whatever the gear is. I never lost one at the drag strip, tire for tire, tune for tune on 93 octane. But the mile an hour on the big end on those cars was always significantly higher than mine. Couple of reasons. One, Challengers are basically bricks going through the air, whereas the Mustang's significantly more aerodynamic. And two, it's that fifth gear. That fifth gear is the sweet spot because in the Mustang, or at least in the 10-speed auto in general, it's the RPM drop from fourth to fifth that is, it just doesn't drop as much. Like say that the Challenger drops like this, the Mustang just drops a little bit. You stay in that RPM band up top, really lets you build that horsepower at the very top end of the track. Also helps you in a roll race as well. I can tell you that, you know, if they, I don't know, followed suit with a 10 speed, that would be really cool. It definitely would help at the top end of the track. But to be honest with you, you know, that's the Mustang's wheelhouse. Challengers are going to put it on their asses coming out of the hole, and it's up to that Mustang to make up the difference up top. I'm not really going to be able to mess with that on a roll race, but on a drag strip, you can definitely tell the difference between the two approaches to power. And it's always the Mustang trying to reel in that Mopar. It just depends on if they've got enough real estate to actually reel it in on the big end. And then I'm going, hey, Grand, don't worry. Those 10R80s are shelling out, exploding after 5,000 miles. Then he goes on to say, my ZF transmission is running great after 28,000 miles in my Scat Pack. That's something that that a lot of folks have been bringing to my attention too. Is it's not just the manual transmissions that are kind of checking out. It's the automatics. I've heard that. Don't know how often that's taken place, but you know, again, it just seems to be another weak link, and it's kind of a drag too because you almost get the sense that I don't know, maybe that program was rushed with the transmissions, not too sure, or you know, the whole thing with the engine with the typewriter tick. That's one thing that just drives me nuts. I just don't want to live in a world where that Coyote platform, whatever they want to call it, you know, with the latest Coyote variant, I just that engine to me has to be bomb proof for it to really, I don't know, maintain the credibility that it has with me. But yeah, I hear you. Yeah, trannies are shattering on those things too. Slime Coot is saying that he just rebuilt 5.7, excuse me, in his 06 Magnum to haul kids around. New mods are cold air intake, 6.1 cam valve springs, MDS delete, 6.1 SRT exhaust, 180 thermostat. What do I need? What I need to change in the tune with HP tuners? Let's see. Well, a lot of stuff. Need to change fan settings, MDS delete. So you need to obviously turn off the MDS in the tune. I would probably check your fueling on that and definitely do a throttle relearn at some point with the car through the tuner. Reset all your adaptives. Check your short term and find out. That's how you're going to check your tuning. It needs to be load tested. There's a lot of stuff you need to do to get that thing where it needs to be. Excuse me. It says Cranmass is hanging out with Mr. Hayden. Patrick Stevens saying Hellcat it. Jay Palmer, thank you very much. I appreciate that very, very much for the contribution with $20 saying happy holidays, Brian. Hashtag Project Revlon. Yes, sir. Project Revlon is moving forward. She is, we're still going through the stuff with the drive shaft. Still trying to find a drive shaft that's going to help her gonna help her not only with the launch, but it's got to be stable at high speeds. See what we can do with that stock Hellcat. I am really having a ball with that car, though. It's really turned into something that that I didn't think it would. And keep in mind that I've driven a lot of extremely fast Mopars, lots of fast Hellcats, fast Mustangs, everything else, and love my 392 car. This Hellcat just takes that a little bit farther for me. So that love affair with Mopar, that the spell is still definitely on me, so to speak. But thank you, Jay, very much. I truly, truly appreciate that more than you know. And I can't wait to get you guys some updates. Really hoping that that drive shaft, when it comes in, get that thing in the car, get it up to speed, checking it for NVH. Once we've established that there is no NVH at high speed, then I'll get you guys a full-on breakdown of the drive shaft, who we went with, plans for upcoming events. Hopefully this spring and summer we'll be doing some high-speed events with the car. Obviously, drag racing is always going to be a thing that I will be taking part in, and I got to tell you that car is a keeper for me. I can't tell y'all how really excited I am to get you guys some content with it, and I still haven't done an actual reveal video with it, so I need to get on that, don't I? Need to get some good weather. Cranman saying, Jay Poma, not all heroes wear capes. Indeed. Jay is a strong supporter of the channel, and I definitely appreciate you very much. Phoenix 98. So just to let you guys know too, so as you guys are commenting, a lot of times there's this lag between what I'm talking about and what I'll get to on the comments, and this is funny. Phoenix 98, little dirty Homero. Exactly. Let's see. Stole it again. What's up, y'all? What's up, man? In your face toast. I love it. Saying congrats on the Hellcat. I feel like I'm the only one that hasn't traded my 16 SRT 392 for one. Man, you are in a room that is hemorrhaging occupants. I would not say trade your 392 for one unless you are really wanting to get a Hellcat. The reason why I got mine was it was a combination of a few things, but it actually turned into a financial issue with me. I had my work truck my personal truck that I was kind of not really upside down on, but a little bit upside down on just based on mileage. It was a great truck, but it was a situation where I have now a work truck that's provided to me by the company that I work for. And there's no sense in me having a truck out there that, it's just going to be sitting in the driveway. And because of the mileage on the thing, I couldn't really get rid of it. And, I didn't want to pay to get rid of my truck, and I had really good equity in my car. So it was a situation where I could actually get a 390, have a Hellcat for significantly less money than what I was paying for my truck and for my Challenger. So it made sense. And because my trade-in sum was so great, the taxes that I had to pay on my Hellcat were basically zero, for lack of a better way of putting it. Very, very low. So financially, it just made sense for me to do it. If I weren't in that position, I wouldn't have gotten rid of my 392 SRT. It has stayed where it is. But the way that it worked out, here's the third thing there. I literally found the Hellcat that I would have built had I ordered a Hellcat in 2015. The exact color, the exact options, and everything. But the kicker was the car had little to no miles on it. So 2015 that only had, was it 5,700 miles on it when I bought it? The car had no miles on it. So, I mean, damn, how do you pass up that deal, right? The exact car I would have built just kind of shows up with less mileage than a demo would have, and it's bone stock, never been touched. How can you go wrong? Let's see. What do we got? Symphonics, it says, Raleigh, this would be RP Productions, just put up a review of a C6 ZR1, and it reminded me of why the C6 is still my favorite Corvette. Love the looks of the C7. but I think the C6 is the perfect Corvette. A lot of you guys a lot of folks would agree with that, mainly because the the thing about the C6 is that it just it's got a look and an appeal to a lot of folks that the C7 I think just doesn't. And C7s are also expensive too, so I don't know. I'll always love the C6. They're awesome cars. Let's see. Stole again saying Mason 298,000 13-second 2009 Pursuit. After running some top end pulls, say 120 to 160, differential blows fluid out of the vent. Any thoughts other than slow down? Well, slow down. Check your fluid level. Make sure that it is not overfilled. The only time a diff is going to vent like that is if it's overfilled or it gets really hot. So something else to consider. But yeah, 298,000 on a Pursuit. Good job. That's some good mileage out of that engine. But yeah, check that out. Check your fluid. You probably time to change fluid. Change every fluid in that thing while you're at it. Stole it again. 2 thumbs up. By the way, 5.7 Charger. I love those cars. Cranman, that moment you realize B Mason skips over your hello. Where did you say hello? Hang on. Let me go back in here. Where did you say hello? I couldn't have skipped over you. Well, it's in there somewhere. Well, hello. Sorry, I skipped over you. Stole again. Your rings are gone. Let's see. Let's see. Patrick Stevens, got some chatting going on. Let's see. The Camaro seems a little light on its feet, if you know what I mean. Indeed. It technically is light on its feet. It's the lightest of all three. Stole again. Sloan, differings. Let's see. Got some chatting. Like that. Like the interaction there between you guys. Let's see. Joe T saying, B Mason, what do you think about the current situation with the 300? Do you think FCA isn't doing enough with it and should do something like a Hellcat, or just like how they were, or can it? I think I know what you're saying. Oh, wait, before I get back to that, Big Daddy 392, boom, thank you very much. I appreciate that very much for the contribution. Chimed in with $9.99. I like it. Definitely going to Project Revlon for sure. See, Joe T on the 300. So the weird thing about the 300 is it's not offered in the States in the same level or package level as you can get them overseas in Australia, UAE, and other markets where you can't get the 392 here in the States. It's weird. So I'm surprised if the 300 were offered here with the 392. I'm sure they would offer a Hellcat variant, but it's a shame that they don't. I'm pretty sure it has something to do with some cafe limitation, and not to mention cars like that here in the States just typically don't sell as well as the SUV when you look at it from a price point line of sight point of view. So in other markets, sedans do very well. I know in Australia, sedans are very popular, and as well in the UAE, where SUVs just aren't the thing there like they are here. So if you're in a hot-rodded SRVs or SRVs, sorry, I was looking at a tune earlier. If you're looking at hot-rodded sport utility vehicles, you got the SRT Durango and you've got the Trackhawk, as well as a 392 powered Cherokee. So let's see. Jalen Jackson, what are your thoughts on swapping out a wide body 392 to a 426 a few years down the road? There's going to be a lot of guys doing that, as a matter of fact. Once these cars have had some equity paid down on them, or folks start buying them on the pre-owned market, you're going to see a lot of folks swapping in 426s in lieu of the 392, just doing basically a refresh with a different crank, pistons, and rods. And I have seen a slight uptick in that already where guys are picking up the like 2015, 2016 Scat Pack cores and immediately the conversation goes to, okay, how do I get a 426 into this car? And if it's done the right way, with the right rotating assembly, spend money where you need to spend money, either pistons, rods, crank, or getting an actual full stroker block already put together. uh, you're going to start seeing a lot of that probably over the next, I would say, 2 to 3 years. You're going to see some builds hitting the streets more and more that are following that particular, I don't know, protocol. Ditch the 392, go 426, fairly mild cam with a ported stock manifold. It'd be a riot to drive, lots of torque, and it just kind of the next evolution. I think that's really where it's going to go. And with that, I think you might start seeing prices drop a little bit. There's more folks that are really wanting to get into that 426 cubic inch arena. They want to have that 426 badge as opposed to the 392, which I don't blame them. I would too. Let's see. Kenyon H. Hey, Mason, under full throttle, my 5.7 makes a whining noise. What do you think it could be? Transmission related, or depending on the year, might be power steering pump freaking out on you. Cranman, B. Mason, get that cough checked out. Actually, yeah, it's actually more allergies than anything else. So we went from having, let's see, it was 30 and 40 degree weather, and now it's 70 degree weather, and now it's dropping back down to like 50s. So yeah, fun times. Let's see. Al's Dream. Hellcat 500 horsepower mode versus 2018 Camaro SS on a roll race. What do you think is faster? Actually, I would say that the Hellcat in 500 horse mode is going to give that 2018 Camaro all that it can handle. The funny thing is that let's see, are you talking about from a roll race? Depends on how fast you're starting that roll race. If you're going to kick that thing off at somewhere around, say, I don't know, 45 miles an hour, the torque is still there in 500 horsepower mode. It just kind of backs off on the big end. But yeah, if you've never driven a Hellcat in 500 horse mode, it's actually pretty stout until you get that thing over about 4,000 RPM, or I'd say 4,500 RPM, where it noses over. But technically speaking, based on the weight, I would say the 18 Camaro would start to walk on him just a little bit on the big end. See, 2 a.m. baby saying he had his Trent. He replaced at 15,000 miles when it started slipping. Al's Dream saying Hellcat, hands down, in 500 horse mode. S.H. Brook, Merry Christmas, moron. What? Well, Merry Christmas to you too. What sticky summer tire do you recommend for a 20 by 10.5? The Pirelli summer tires are actually pretty good. They aren't bad in most conditions, meaning, cooler weather, but, on the street, they seem to hook fairly well, and you get them hot at the drag strip, they'll hook pretty good too. Still, again, yeah, it's coming into my SRV comment. Let's see. Yeah, I still can't believe I butchered that one up. Let's see. Gerard saying, have you seen the new McQueen and Galpin package for the 2019-2020 Mustang Bullitt? It's, let's see, it's manual only, NA 500 horsepower 5.0 or supercharged 775 horse with upgrade suspension, wheels, and front fascia. I've heard about it, but I haven't seen it. I'd like to actually check that out at some point. The cool thing and the weird thing, I guess, at the same time, is that they are hearkening back to the whole Bullitt thing. I like that they're doing that, the Bullitt tribute cars. And if you guys haven't seen one, they're actually really good looking cars. I don't know if I would be willing to spend the money on that car, but all things considered, I will say that it's a cool tribute nonetheless. Let's see. Sipad is saying Merry Christmas from Puerto Rico. Merry Christmas to you. Feliz Navidad. Let's see. In your face toast. How wide of a tire can you put on the stock 15 to 16 SRT rims safely? Define safely, man. I mean, you can go 305s, but the contact patch is not ideal on that width of a wheel. On the 9.5 inch, which is what the SRT wheels are. I would prefer the 295. The 295 actually looks pretty good as well. They're a little bit taller though, but I like 295. Like I say, I ran 305s on mine for a while, and didn't have any issues with them in terms of stability or anything like that. Worked out fine. It was really more of the actual contact patch at the drag strip, but 305s is what I've seen plenty of guys run on their cars. So, but at any rate, checking in here, timestamp, just in case y'all are wondering, is 1 hour, 25 minutes and counting. But the funny thing is I started off the chat talking about the Camaro mainly because, number one, I saw one of the new Camaros and I thought it was kind of an interesting look. And so it got me to thinking about the actual sales numbers and performance figures and my experience with that car, both on the drag strip and on the street. And when I started getting into the sales numbers and seeing where that car was falling in line with its predecessor, the Gen 5 Camaro, I started looking at it thinking, well, man, I mean, it's the sales figures have dropped. I'm not seeing them at the drag strip. Why is it that there's just not as much love for that car? And that's kind of why I started the video off with that. Let's see. Still, again, any long-term negative issues running with MDS off in the tuner, leaving all the hardware in place? Nope, not at all. Or switching between the two modes during a long-distance trip? Nah, not really. The MDS, when it's not activated, you're not doing any harm to anything. But when the MDS activates, it basically, you've got on the MDS lifters, you're just allowing the lifter to ride up and down, but it's not actually actuating the valve itself. It just kind of slides back. There are 4 solenoids that just basically lock those down in place. You're not really hurting anything by turning those off. In fact, for the most part, your car or truck or whatever you're driving is not in MDS mode. MDS really only activates under a pretty narrow set of parameters for MDS to actually kick on. If you decide you want to turn it off, keep in mind that it's kind of a gimmicky thing to begin with. You're not going to see a whole lot of improvement in fuel economy with the MDS mode on going on a long trip, unless you're keeping your speeds down to like 65 miles an hour long term. You may see some improvement, but most of the time at normal highway speeds, I can tell you that when I disabled MDS in my truck, I noticed 0 difference in fuel economy overall. It just wasn't there. And my current work truck, which is a company supplied vehicle, I don't see any benefit over that truck with 323 gears versus my personal truck that had 392 gears and was a non-MDS, well, at least through the tune anyway, setup. Didn't see any issues there. So take that for what it's worth. But I haven't heard of any issues. Let's see. Stole it again, saying 2009 MDS mode sucks during low speed in town driving. It sucks whenever MDS kicks in. And for you guys that don't have a multi-displacement system, which is what MDS stands for, configuration with your vehicle, it's it kills every other cylinder. So it basically makes the vehicle, I don't know, it just runs like crap when MDS kicks on. And if you've got exhaust on your car or on your truck, when MDS kicks on, it sounds even worse. Let's see. Still again saying 6 to 7 mile per gallon increase with MDS at 80 miles an hour. I never had MDS kick on that high. I mean, mine typically would turn off at, well, with my truck, let's see, mine kicks off at, I want to say 65 miles an hour. I have to go back and check, but I think it activates between 35 and 65. Steady state driving, very light throttle, not towing anything. I mean, you've basically got to be driving the thing as though you're trying to get good fuel economy out of it for MDS to kick on, at least with my vehicles. So that is what I have noticed anyway. But yeah, again, like I say, I mean, I was, let's see. Still again saying my MDS is on at 90 miles an hour pulling a trailer. Man, I have never had mine kick on that high. Pretty cool if it's in MDS mode and it can still pull a trailer. That's Mopar torque for you. But yeah, again, like I say, I just wanted to, throw that out there. Talking about the Camaros again, what I had started talking about earlier. I just got this, weird sense that, we're living in this time where, rumors get all the clicks, right? So, no matter where the rumors come from, even the person telling you could have been the one coming up with the rumor. So, I don't think there's a lot of teeth to some of the rumors that we're hearing, but I don't know. We'll see. And the truth, yeah, there's truth in that too. Even with the Mopars. I mean, when is the CUDA going to be released? And I've heard all the goofy stuff coming with that. When is the new Viper going to be released? When are we going to see something along the lines of, the 426? Why, rumors that it's coming. The 426 is coming. Watch out. Guys, I'll believe it when I hear it from a bit more of a credible source than just something that you might see on the internet, on the YouTubes, if you know what I mean. Stoll again saying it was MDS with the cruise set. Man, no kidding. I've never actually even tried that. That is a good point. I never actually thought, I don't ever use my cruise control, to be honest with you. Keep forgetting that it's even there. And it says, thanks so much for your thoughts and support. Well, thank you very much for being a part of the show. I appreciate it. And guys, I think with that, we are going to chop the shop. We've got an hour and a half into this show. Thank you all very much for being a part of it. Can't wait to see y'all on the next one. And hopefully by then we will have had the new drive shaft put into Project Revlon. Fingers crossed, kill that NVH issue, and we will be on the road from there. You guys have a great one. Again, thank you all very much for being a part of the show. That's a wrap on this one. Adios.